Good morning and welcome to BOTB HQ in Parsons Green, South West London. My name is Christian Williams, a presenter here at BOTB. And we're here this morning to judge the latest Dream Car competition, which ran from the 6th to the 12th of July 2020. And just before I hand over to Charlotte, once again, huge congratulations to Shibu Paul winning that amazing Lamborghini Urus plus £20,000 in last week's Dream Car competition. I'm now going to pass over to Charlotte Houston from Onside Law, who will oversee the proceedings this morning.
My name's Charlotte Houston from Onside Law, and I'll be overseeing the judging this morning. Firstly, I can confirm that the competition data has already been sent to the auditors, Wilkins Kennedy. I would now like to introduce today's judges. First up, it's Matt Cannon.
Good morning, my name's Matt Cannon. I'm a senior county referee and active footballer, and really looking forward to my pre-season training.
Thanks, Matt. If you could now use the secure link provided and mark on the screen where you think the centre of the ball should be, then we'll come back to you at the end for you to justify your position and for a final panel decision. Next up, Ari Mendonca.
Hi, my name is Ari Mendonca. I've been involved with football for over 30 years, first as a player, then as a referee.
Next up, Hugh Gilroy.
Good morning, my name's Hugh Gilroy. I'm an active referee, mentor, tutor and observer.
Next up, Raphael Headlam.
Good morning, my name is Raphael Headlam. I am a qualified football referee. I've been refereeing since the age of 14. I currently officiate in the Arthurian Football Association and the Harrow Sunday Challenge League.
Next up, Andy Braithwaite.
Thanks, Charlotte. My name's Andy Braithwaite. I'm a football referee, mentor and licensed observer.
Next up, Nigel Hicks.
My name's Nigel Hicks. I am a Supply League match official for best part of 30 years and also an experienced football administrator.
Thanks, judges. If you could each now please individually justify the position of your cross on the screen, starting with Matt, please.
Thank you, Charlotte. Mine is the red cross. I'm just really just behind the blue cross a few. There's three players in shot, two people we can see looking towards the ball. They're both have their foreheads furrowed, so I think the ball is imminently coming towards them. The player in red in the middle of the shot looks like he's got his hand on the top of the blue player to sort of impede him playing the ball. So I think the player in blue is just about to head the ball, and he's looking intently up with his mouth open, and he's looking quite steeply. I think you can see the white underneath his eye, and I've cross-referenced the two players' eyes, and I've put the centre of the ball where my red cross is.
Thanks, Matt. Ari, if you could please justify the position of your cross on the screen.
Yes, my cross is the green one. I have the same opinion as Matt as well. So we have two players, the clear view to the ball. They are on the ground, and I feel that they are on the move towards the ball. Player in blue is looking quite steeply at the ball. Player in red is on his side. As we have a better view from his eye lines where to the direction of the ball. The player on that we cannot see his face on the left one side. I think is in the air. He's quite higher in the picture. So I basically used the both highlights of two players, playing blue, playing red, and decided the center of the ball should be where I placed my cross.
Thank you. Hugh, if you could please justify the position of your cross on the screen.
Yeah, mine's the blue cross just to the left of the purple and right on top of the red cross. Have to agree with what Matt said because I was bang in the same position, but there's two players for me that are challenging for the ball, judging by the hand of the red player on the blue player's shoulder. Blue player, for me, you can see a lot of the white of the eye, which tells us he's looking steeply up. His brows furrowed as well. He's really kind of looking up into the sky. And from the red player, he's looking up. Obviously, he's slightly in the background, so he's looking kind of in a slightly different angle towards it. And where both of their eye lines were looking, that's where I placed my blue cross.
Thank you. Raphael, if you could please justify the position of your cross.
Good morning. So I've decided to place my cross where I placed it because in shot, you see that we've got three eyes to look at. So the player in blue, I believe he's looking steeply upwards towards the ball. I believe he's looking like he's favourite to win it because of the position of the red player with the hand on his shoulder as well, trying to impede him to get to the ball. I believe that the player in red is also trying to put the player off to just try and to try and put him off rather than actually go for the ball himself. I think that looking at cross-referencing both eye lines, I decided to place my cross where I placed it. So the player in red gave me the lateral position, and the player in blue gave me the height of where I think the ball is.
Thank you. Andy, if you could please justify the position of your cross.
Thanks, Charlotte. Yes, I'm the grey cross on the picture. I'm the lowest of the six selected. The reason that I've placed my cross there is that, yes, I believe that the two guys in shot, blue and red, are tussling for the ball. The guy in red's on the right-hand side of the picture, his right hand is across the blue guy, so he's trying to hold him off. I do agree with what's said regarding colleagues who are at the height of the picture. That he's looking quite silly, but I believe that the ball is coming in more of a diagonal rather than dropping in. The guy on the right-hand side, he's slightly back, just slightly not out of focus, but just a little bit further away. I've got the slight tilt on his head is giving me the shot that's sort of in the foreground. But again, as I said, I believe that the ball is coming in more of a diagonal. That's why I've placed the centre of my ball with my grey cross.
Thank you. And Nigel, if you could please justify the position of your cross on the screen.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Like everyone else, looking at three eyes here and cross-referencing between them. As Hugh says, I think we can see a lot of the underside of the eye of the player in blue. And he's looking up. The reason normally people that look 90 degrees out from their faces, I think they're looking up because they're about to contest the ball onto they're looking at it come onto their foreheads. So particularly the player in blue. So I think he's looking at the underside of the ball there. And my cross is the purple one's just slightly the highest of that cluster, simply because we can see so much of the white of the eyes there. So that's why I placed it where I have.
Thank you. Thanks, judges. Matt, now as the main judge, could you please come to a panel decision with the other 5 judges? For your reference, the larger white cross is the calculated average of the 6 individual selections.
Thanks, Charlotte. Morning, guys. If we get some lines drawn in, I'm going to take it from just in front of his eye because I want to be able to magnify his eye properly. Okay. I think, gents, the biggest part of this debate is going to be the height of the ball. As I said, several of you have pointed out, including myself, that I can see a lot of white under the pupil of this guy's eye here. And I think, along with Nigel and Hugh, that he's looking quite steeply, and also Ari. But I'd like to hear your thoughts. I mean, Ari, you've slightly to the right of us all, but up in the top sort of echelon of this. What are your thoughts about the ball being lower?
Well, it's exactly just because the player in blue, I think he's looking too steeply, he's frowning his forehead over there, and that's the main reason that I felt that the ball is quite higher. I felt that the ball, if it was in a position where Andy as and Rafael, he wouldn't be looking as his facial expression would be definitely slightly different. Not so dramatic, for example.
Yeah. And if I go back to you, Andy, obviously being the lowest, if I put the magnifier over your cross, I know you were saying it's out in front of the blue player more than, and obviously the red player's slightly behind him on the plane.
Yeah, with mine, as I said, when I did my individual markings, my scope was literally as it is there. I sort of did it from the extreme to one side and the extreme to the other side. Having looked at the rest of you guys, whatever, yes, it probably is a little bit more higher, but that was just within my parameters of the scope of the guy in blue. And so the fellow in red, it's definitely looking at that angle, which I think we're all pretty much along that same bit. But yeah, so that was my thinking on that. I just feel that the ball was coming in at a slightly different trajectory than
and again, yeah, thank you, Andy. Rafael, I'll ask you the same question. Whether you've thought any more about the height of the ball?
Yeah. So the main reason why I put my cross lower than the others is to do with the fact that I don't think he's looking that steeply, because if he is looking that steeply, then he's effectively looking through his brow. So I think that actually there's only so high that you can see without actually tilting your head upwards. So about his head actually being at a higher angle to look at the ball so high up, I don't think the ball is as high. I think it's a little bit lower.
Okay, that's a fair point. So again, Nigel, I'll come to you. You're the highest, but only ever so slightly higher than us, and you're in that sort of the corridor with the four of us.
Yeah, I mean, I take the point about looking through your brow, but I think he's got his head tilted because he's actually watching the ball come onto his forehead. So I think when you're doing that, you may impede your view simply because you don't want the ball right between the eyes. But yeah, I am, as you say, slightly high. So I get the feeling it's a drop-in ball. I think the red's given us the clue as to the vertical of where the ball comes in, and I think the blue's giving us the horizontal. But
it's got a narrow band going up. I think.
Yeah, I didn't see it as low as some of my colleagues has put it, but simply because there's so much white under his eye. But it could well be that he's looking at the flat side of the ball rather than the underneath, which is possibly where the lower crosses would be.
Yeah. Okay. And Hugh, you're really on top of me here, so I'll agree with probably everything you say. I'm in agreement that it's a bit higher, and me and you are sort of slightly on the highest trajectory up from the blue player. So if you could add to what you've said before, I'll highlight your cross.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I just think, bearing in mind they haven't started to move to play the ball yet. So yes, they are tussling for it, but neither of them is moving their head towards heading it, or even the player in the background doesn't. The other shirt, just the red kind of body we can see, no one looks like they're moving to play it particularly. So I don't feel it can be that close to them. And just as we've said with the white of the eye, I think he has to be looking up steeply because of how much of that white we can see. And yeah, I think I just felt similar to you with it being over to the left slightly, that perhaps that red player wasn't looking straight up. He was looking slightly over to the left as we're looking at it. And it's the same with the blue player.
Okay. Because obviously the average is pulled up more to the four top choices, just because there's four choices at the top and two at the bottom. If I do the usual remove sort of the two outliers, it comes up quite high. And I'm not sure with Andy and Raphael's choices being sort of much lower, that the average then moves up really quite a long way up. Obviously, I'm personally happy with that because it comes very close to where I've chosen it, and Nigel and Hugh, and slightly inside where Ari's choice is. But it's really whether, as a panel, we leave the judge average in, which is quite a bit higher than Andy and Raphael, or whether we take on board some of what we've said and then possibly move the average slightly further up, which I personally think would be my favourite choice, as opposed to taking out the two players, the two judges' choices at the bottom. But say if we just take Andy's out, it moves up higher, but there's no reason why we can't then just drop the average down a bit. So I don't know what people think about that. I mean, I'll go back to Andy and then Raphael again about this, to see what you think about where the average is chosen, or whether we should move the centre of the ball into a slightly higher trajectory.
Yes, Matt. As it shows there, to me that is a slightly better average. But I do agree with what you say there. If it was slightly up and not quite as I said, I think that Raphael made a fairly valid point there about the tilt of the head. Yes, it possibly is that high up, but not as high as you guys have said. But as you said, if it was slightly above where the average cross is now, that would probably, in my opinion,
the lowest, Andy.
If I
take you out, it goes up a little bit. And obviously that still takes into consideration you and Raphael's lower level, because Raphael would then stay in where you'd be moving up slightly, and then the average would move up. Or we just simply move the average up to where, underneath the magnifier where we think it's going to be. So Raphael, I'll go back to you again and what you think about that.
I think that the average slightly higher works for me as well. I don't think it is as high as say yours and Nigel's and Ari's crosses. But I can see that actually that there's a lot of judges that have put the ball higher. So I think the higher average works for me, but I still don't think he's looking that high, because otherwise his head would be tilted higher, because then he's got a better view of the ball to then actually head it.
Yeah, we've taken that point. Thank you, and thank you for pointing that out. I mean, I won't go individually for the four of us at the top, really, because I think the question is really whether we, as a panel, if we take Andy out, it moves further up, or from what Andy and Raphael just said, is that we just simply move the average further up under where this magnifier is as the centre of the ball to get basically a slightly better panel decision. So that's. I mean, Ari, what do you think about that?
Well, I felt when you just removed the Andy cross, I felt the average would stays good for me.
If you just now remove Andy, you're happier with the average.
I feel it's a good is a valid.
Matt, sorry, I'm actually okay with that, because that's probably where I was saying more likely to be.
Yeah.
So personally, I'd be happy with that. So regarding the whole process, that to me looks a lot better.
Yeah, I agree with Andy. I think that where the cross has moved to is looks exactly spot on there.
Okay, and Hugh.
Yeah, I take Raphael's point that he doesn't think he's looking through the barrel. I think that where it's moved to probably balances better to there's four of us up there. And then one just slightly below. So I think we do want to adjust for that kind of 4-2 ratio by then taking Andy out does that quite well.
Yeah. I mean, I must say, as a panel, I mean, the difficulty that the players of this competition will look at is that if we take one out, why aren't we taking the other out? So I think we've got to be very clear that when we leave Rafael in on this, it is simply to get the average below where we are and take on board both what Andy and Rafael have said, because other than physically moving the average to where we again think it is, i.e. leaving Andy in and just moving it slightly up, it's sometimes difficult for people in the competition to actually understand that. I'm happy with where this average is moving up to. I think it's in a better trajectory from looking at the blue player, but we've also both taken both Rafael and Andy's position being lower into account, which I think is important. So if we're all happy with that, we'll judge at this average with Andy removed, but with his choice in mind being lower, and using basically Rafael's lower choice to bring the average down below the top four of us, if that all makes sense.
So, sorry, Matt, so just before you do that, can you just put a line in from the guy in blue, where we've got the original lowest line? If you just put one to go through Rafael, please, so then it just shows it, highlights it more. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's with him looking up in this direction.
Yeah, I'm happy with that,
yeah. So have we all agreed as a panel?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah, happy.
Yeah. Okay, thanks guys. If we're happy to judge at this average with Andy's removed, but with his choice, original choice, and Rafael's in mind, I'll unclick and I'll judge at that average. So
thanks, Matt.
We're happy with this choice.
Thanks, Matt. If everyone is happy, if you could please now hit submit. Thank you. The coordinates selected are 1, 4, 5, 6, 4, 6, 5. These coordinates will now be passed to Wilkins Kennedy to calculate the winner of the competition, and they will then inform BOTB. That concludes the judging process. Thank you very much.